everybody, and welcome to Quillpen's Quips Knitting and More podcast. This is episode 6. I am Betsy, also known as Quillpen on Ravelry and Instagram. There is also the Quillpen's Quips podcast on Instagram that you can follow, and the Quillpen's Quips Knitting and More group on Ravelry that you can join. And so welcome to any new and returning viewers. Thanks for hanging out with me. And we did have someone new join the Ravelry group and introduce themselves. So I'm going to give a shout out to the baby lady 1990, who is Shirley. Welcome, Shirley. And I've gotten to meet Shirley through our UFO group, our Unfinished Object Challenge group. And if you'll remember from a few episodes ago, right when I was getting ready, I think, to start the coffee date shawl, I mentioned that someone at our UFO group had just finished their coffee date shawl and how much I loved it. And that was Shirley. She was the one who had made that coffee date shawl. So she found the Ravelry group and introduced herself. So she got a shout out. So if you do the same, I'll give you a shout out on a future podcast if you're new to the group. And so today's episode, especially for new viewers, if this is your first time tuning in, this episode's might be a little different. I'm recording earlier. Normally I record on Mondays, post on Mondays, but I'm recording a little bit earlier because at the end of the podcast, I'm going to be sharing with you about my 2 new designs that are going to be released tomorrow on Sunday. So I really wanted this episode to happen in time for you to get a little preview and taste of those designs before they're released so that you're all ready for when they are released. And but I didn't want to wait another 2 weeks to do a podcast, and I also didn't want to do kind of a design released episode and a podcast episode over top of each other. So I just decided to go ahead and combine it into one sort of normal episode. So I'm going to be doing my normal segments, but I'm going to try to maybe keep it a little quicker, less chatter, maybe a little less chit chat this time. So that we can get to that, and that I'm not taking up hours and hours of your time, even though I'm sure you would love to spend hours and hours of your time with me watching my podcast. But anyways, so let's get started. First up is what is off my needles, and I was just talking about my coffee date shawl, and it is officially bound off and blocked, and it is seriously stunning. It is so big. It's quite a bit bigger than the measurements in the book, possibly because, well, quite probably because I went up a needle size. I think she recommends a 2.5 US, and I didn't have a 2.5 on my interchangeable needle set. So I went up to a 3. So this is knit on a US 3. I didn't quite make it. I think I was talking on the last episode about whether I was going to have enough of this color to do another of this big chunk up here. But I actually ran out of this brown, which was my color A. I ran out of that on this. I didn't get to do a full repeat of this. It's supposed to be 32 rows, and I was only able to do 30. So I had to stop 2 rows early, which meant that I was out. I didn't have any more to do the next little section. So I just did this bound off, and I am perfectly happy with it. I joke with my husband that it's big enough to be a throw blanket, and it matches all of my couches in our house. So I think that it might just, that might be its storage for the winter, and I can just grab it off a couch and throw it on. But I really do love it. It was a very fun knit, very fun project. I highly recommend it. It was the biggest thing I've ever had to block. So my husband had to help me lay it out on the floor. We even had to open the closet door to let the little corner go into the closet, and it was pretty comical. But so biggest thing I've ever had to block was this, but it's beautiful and I love it, and it was fun to do. So that was that. I also finished the I Love You More Than pumpkin spice socks. These were also from the Coffee with Cece book by Cece Allman, Java Pearl Designs, from the Geeky Girls Knit podcast. And these, I'm doing the Coffee with Cece Cal that the Knitting Broomstick podcast is hosting. And I hope you can see this, but the cable up the center looks like little pumpkins. Aren't they so cute? It was just, it's a cute design. She labels this the hardest pattern in the book. And obviously that was because the actual cable stitch is a little complicated. However, you only do that stitch once every however many rows. And so you kind of, you know, you get the hang of it. You don't have to do it that often. So it was actually really intuitive and a pretty quick knit. This yarn was the Zauberball yarn that I had never ever heard of. And I love the gradient effect. I, for some reason, was expecting it to stripe. I'm not really sure why, but I was really pleased with the gradient effect. And I didn't really, if you can, this is the one I did first. So I knitted up and then kind of went brown to red and then back to brown. And then this one went backwards. So it was brown back to red to burgundy instead of going again the same cycle. So the socks are actually kind of opposites, but I don't mind. And they still feel pumpkin spicy to me. However, the actual knitting with the yarn was tough. It's very splitty. I did not enjoy that. I don't even know if you can see the halo you can kind of see that there's like you can see the yarn, and this is post blocking, but it just kept splitting on me. And for a pattern that has a cable and a kind of tricky cable, as well as the short row heel, so I was doing wrap and turns, and I was doing it on double points, it just kept splitting and catching on things, and that was frustrating. So I didn't love the yarn, but it's been funny because this yarn, this Zauberball, and I realized that yarns come and go sort of in fads. This is yarn I had never ever heard of, and now it's popping up everywhere, as things do. And I recently saw on Instagram someone had made an entire short sleeve sweater out of the lace weight Zauberball, and it was stunning. And she said it was easy to work with, the yarn. So maybe the different weights work better? I don't know. But this yarn was frustrating to work with. I was glad to finish. However, I am very happy with the final product. Those are my two finished objects for this time. Then what I'm currently working on is my final project for that Coffee with Cece Cal for the Knitting Broomstick. And this is the Strawberries and Cream Frappe socks. And for this, I am using Unplanned Peacock's Twinkle Twist yarn. So there's a little bit of a sparkle, although I'm not sure it'll come through on the video. But there is a little bit of a sparkle. And I'm not really a pink person, especially like pastel pink. So I didn't want to do a pinky strawberries and cream. So I'm just kind of calling these my strawberry socks. And I'm doing them in bright red. The colorway is candy apple. But I'm loving this yarn. Using this yarn after using the Zauberball yarn has been a joy. No splitting. This is my first time working with sparkle, with anything with stellina in it, and that's been fun. So I'm working on my second. I'm very close to being done. I only have, like this part is the strawberry pattern, and then right here it changes. You can see that's the cream part. And so I think I have, a couple more rows, maybe 3 or so rows of the cream, and then I'll do the cuff, the ribbing for the cuff, and then that'll be it. So these will be done very, very soon. These have taken me a little bit longer. For some reason, this pattern has been hard for me to wrap my brain around. I don't know whether it's that it shifts or the way I don't know, the cable, I don't know what it is, but for some reason I had to frog some, I had to pick up stitches again and start again. I had to reread the pattern a few times to make sure I understood. The second sock is going much faster, obviously, because I learned a lot of my lessons on the first one, but for some reason this one is slowing me down a little bit. And also this week has been the Initiate Knit Design Challenge with Aroha Knits and Frenchie. And so it was 10 days of emails, basically for each day, each challenge, you got 2 days to do it. And it's just, again, a step-by-step intro into one process for designing, to see if that's a good option for you. And I had done this challenge, I think at the beginning of the year, maybe February or so, and really loved it. That's kind of what sparked my interest in designing, and I was really excited to do it again. And just remember that you can break this all down into steps and not get overwhelmed by the process of designing, and just take it one step at a time and make it really manageable. So, and that is a design project, not a knitting project, so I'm still staying monogamous. Those are my 2 things I've been working on this week. I was going to show you, hold on, one of my party in my mailbox, if you will, for the Grocery Girls podcast. This is Mrs. Brown's bags from the Grocery Girls. I finally snagged one of her bags. Her shop updates are hard to catch. And I love it. So my sock project is in there. It's big. My project notebook fits in here, everything. My Notions bag. It's a great size. I'm very excited to have it. So this arrived in the mail, and I was very excited. So that is housing my sock project. Then in my That Clever Clementine project bag, which is super cute, that is housing my design project. And so I can show you the swatch. This is my little swatch. I was playing around with three different stitches, some lacy options, and this is most likely going to be a cowl. I am probably going to edit. I'm going to reverse order, and I think I'm also going to invert this one so that it looks more like waves, the way I want them to look. So I did a little swatch. I was playing around with dictionaries and drawing out ideas and knitting a swatch and figuring out a lot of math this week. So I was taking some of my knitting time to do those things. And so as soon as I finish the socks, I'm going to knit up the example. I've written out the pattern. The last day's challenge was to write up the pattern. So I'm going to knit up a sample and see how it goes. And then from there we'll shift, and it might turn into a pattern release in the future. I will keep you posted. But this is Wonderland fingering yarn. I'm not sure I forget the colorway. Oh, with what porpoise, I think. It'll be in the show notes. And it's the gradient kit that I had gotten a few weeks ago at our trip away. I actually got it from the yarn shop that was closing. But anyway, so Wonderland yarns, which I'm actually enjoying knitting with. It's a nice yarn to work with. No splitting. So that's in my Clever Clementine bag. And so that's all that I've been working on. That's what's on my needles. And then I gotta finish those by the end of this week, because next I need to swatch for the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. I finally decided on my colors, although I still have a backup just in case I change my mind. And this is a mystery knit along, so you really don't know what's coming. I really have no idea. And I've never done a Stephen West. This is my first mystery knit along and my first Stephen West. So I'm really kind of flying blind here. But these are my 4 colors, because he kind of recommends a little variety in depth of color. So like these are kind of dark, and this is more of a pop of color, and then a light is kind of what I'm going for. So it's going to be a shawl, and they had a special new weight of yarn from Hedgehog Fibers, designed especially for them for this cow. And I think they're calling it sporty merino. So it's kind of fingering, but a little plumper is kind of, I think, how he described it. And so he said that like gauge doesn't matter because it's a shawl. Gauge doesn't matter so much in terms of size, because it'll just kind of be the size that it is. But he did indicate that the fabric matters, that some of the stitches we'll be doing, that you want to have a good fabric that's not too tight but not too loose. And I tend to be a loose knitter, and he was saying because that yarn sold out like before I even knew that there was a mystery knit along. So he said that he also recommends the skinny singles, and he's going to be doing one in skinny singles, and he's just going down a needle size or 2 to make the correct fabric. So that's what I'm going to try to do. So I want to make sure to swatch to make sure I get a fabric that I like, because I do tend to be a loose knitter, so I don't want to just go down one and hope for the best. I do want to give it some care. So I'm going to be swatching soon. I didn't really care about swatching until I read one of the Yarn Harlots books, and she convinced me. I am now a believer in swatching. I also may have made a sweater that was an absolute disaster because I didn't swatch. So I am firmly in the swatching family now, if it's something that I think I'm going to care about. So that is that. And right now, my other big project bag arrival in the mail was this beauty from Jan B. Smiley. I mentioned her before because she has the poke me knots. This is a sweater sized project bag with sweaters on it. I think I mentioned that I was eyeballing this, so I finally splurged. I had to get another poke me knot because I lost mine. How did I do that? I left it at Starbucks and they couldn't find it for me. So this is gigantic, and it has this big pocket in the middle, and I make a lot of sweaters, and it's very hard to find sweater-sized project bags. So this was totally worth it. Has a fun little handle. It's very sturdy. It has the wide open bottom so it can stand up on its own. I am thoroughly loving this project bag. I love all of her products. Jan B. Smiling on Etsy. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes. And then just one more little shout out to Ravelry. Have you guys seen the Camelbak that's on Ravelry? I needed a new Camelbak. Although after I purchased this, I found out that they have an awesome replacement policy, and I probably could just replace the top that had broken. But I needed a new Camelbak. So there's sheep, right? But then all of the fields are crochet stitches, and all of the trees are knit stitches. I love it. It's so fun and so me, and I take it everywhere, and now I get to talk about my knitting because everyone's like, what's on your Camelbak? So I love that. I purchased it through Ravelry. And I really want to do the painted windows shawl by Casapinka on Ravelry. I don't have the pattern here with me, but look it up. It's gorgeous. So I think we're going to do the cow for November, December, and January. You have to start it November 1st and finish it before the end of January. You don't have to start it November 1st, but you know, it's not for a work in progress. So start it November 1st or later, and finish by the end of January. I think should give everybody enough time to not like stress about it, but still enjoy it. I'm still looking for yarn. I have one special order coming that has not arrived yet, And I think there might be a skein of yarn in that package that might be perfect for this shawl. But we will see, and I will be sure to show that to you when it arrives. So don't forget the cowl. Look for it, and I'll keep mentioning it. I think the cowl would be, I think that'd be a really fun cowl to do together. And I know that one person said that she'd be our cheerleader, which is awesome too. We always need cheerleaders, so that would be great too if you just want to tune in and watch everyone else's project. That's fine too. The more the merrier, I say. So, okay, let's move on. Okay, so I'm gonna try to keep the reading and watching section a little short because we have more fun things to get to. And reading is pretty much the same as last time. I'm still reading Hamilton. I'm still reading Raging Heat by Richard Castle. I'm still reading The House of Mirth, which book club was supposed to be tonight, but they moved it. So I have a little more time to refinish that. I have read it once, but I have to read it again, refresh my memory. And I'm still working through Travelogue of the Interior, and I think that's it for my books, which is 4. That's a decent amount. But then watching has just exploded this week. Unfortunately, it's all stuff we all watch, where the both of us watch, my husband and I. So Blacklist, we caught up. Oh, it was on Netflix. So now we're watching the new season on TV. Still pretty good. I still like the funny aspects. It's a little more serious right now. A little more worried about things, I guess. I get a little more stressed when I watch it this right now. Person of Interest, new season came out on Netflix, so we've been watching that. New Girl, the new season came out on Netflix, so we've been watching that. That's a good last, like right before bed after we watch something a little intense, like Blacklist or Person of Interest. And so we can just kind of end on something funny and a little stupid. But I do thoroughly enjoy that show. So we've been watching some New Girl. Hell's Kitchen is coming back. I don't think it's back yet. Once is coming back. So we have a lot of TV watching to do. Good thing I have enough knitting to keep me busy. Okay, for today's signing section, we're going to go back to learning some signs and teaching individual signs. So today I have 3 signs I want to teach you. The first sign is the sign for knitting. I can't believe I forgot to teach you the sign for knitting, or that I haven't yet taught you the sign for knitting. So the sign for knitting is this. You have your 2 needles and you're turning them together. So knitting. I also wanted to teach you fall or autumn for this season. And this is sort of representing the leaves falling off the tree branches. Now that we are officially in fall, that's a good sign to learn. And I will be teaching more fall related signs in the next podcast. And then I also want to teach you the sign for anchor. And so this is the sign for anchor. This represents a boat. This is called a classifier for a boat or a vehicle of any kind, in this case a boat. And then this is the anchor that you're dropping off the bottom of the boat to keep you stable. And that is a sign I want to teach you, and you will realize the reason why in just a minute. So the moment we've all been waiting for, the big design release information. These designs have been in the works probably since the beginning of the year about. And there are 2 designs that I'm going to release tomorrow, Sunday, the 25th. They will be officially released and live on Ravelry. But these 2 designs are very special to me because as of this weekend, I am a 10-year survivor of sexual assault. And, unfortunately, my story's not all that unique. There are a devastating number of women and men that have experienced sexual abuse and assault in their lives. And it's not something that gets talked about much. It's something that's hard to come forward about and admit and get the help that you need. And I came across a quote from Corrie ten Boom, who you may have heard of. And the quote was, I have it written here in case I forget. In order to realize the worth of the anchor, we need to feel the stress of the storm. In order to realize the worth of the anchor, we need to feel the stress of the storm. And we all have storms in our lives. Whether it's something like the loss of a job or a divorce or a physical ailment, everybody experiences all sorts of different storms in life that in order to not be completely blown off course in your life, you need an anchor of some kind, whether that is religious or faith-based, or a hobby like knitting, or a relationship, someone that you can go to and talk to about, or meditation or exercise. I mean, people have all different things that keep them anchored so that when these storms of life come, they don't get completely blown off course. And if you had told me 10 years ago when this happened that I would now be here with a husband and a family, and that I would be knitting and designing and making a podcast and living the life I'm living, I absolutely wouldn't have believed you. But the anchors that I had in place to keep me steady as I weathered this particular storm over these last 10 years is what has kept me going, and is what is able to make me now say, I'm not just a survivor. I'm not just surviving, but I'm thriving. And so I wanted to design something to represent that for me, not only to represent sort of to me where I've been and what I've come through, but also to be an inspiration to others who are experiencing storms and have maybe come through them and are thriving, or maybe still weathering them and need to be reminded of their anchors. And so that was the thought process behind these two designs. So first we have a shawl, and it is a crescent shaped shawl with this large anchor motif in the center. The anchor is created through some small, easy cables, not very difficult cables, I promise. And the rest of the shawl is very simple and very easy so that the anchor pops out. This was made with a DK weight yarn that was a merino silk blend, but not all of my test designers used that blend, and all of their test knitters, all of their projects came out beautifully. And I even think maybe one of them used a worsted weight yarn, so worsted or DK I think would be beautiful on this. And one of my test knitters even described herself as an advanced beginner, and she had no trouble with the designs. So I think it's an accessible design for a variety of knitters. So that is the first one. This is called the Anchored Shawl, for obvious reasons, just to help you feel anchored. It's nice and light and perfect for this weather we're about to enter into. So that is the first one. The second one is a cowl, also with the anchor motif. This one is called the It Is Well cowl, because of the line in the old hymn that says, when sorrows like sea billows roll, it is well with my soul. So there are 3 anchors around the cowl. This is knitted in a worsted weight yarn, and so this kind of gives you an idea of what the shawl might look like in worsted weight. Both of these designs would work best with a solid or a tonal yarn. I think if you got into variegated, then it would be harder to notice the anchor motif. And they are slightly different. The anchor on the cowl is a little smaller than the one on the shawl. This is worked in the round, and this is worked bottom up. This is worked flat and top down. So the charts, both patterns have written and charted instructions, but they are a little different. So if you're particularly interested in one or the other, they're not easily interchangeable. So make sure you get the right one that you want. So those are my two designs, and the inspiration behind them, and just sort of being a testament to the fact that we all can weather the storms of life successfully, and come out as better people on the other side. So those patterns will be released tomorrow. They will be live on Ravelry. The anchored shawl, the It Is Well cowl, from, if you look under my Quillpen, it'll show you it'll take you to my shop. There, I will post on my blog, www.quillpensquips.com, just again, some background information about where the inspiration came from, as well as links to the patterns. And I will also be running a discount, and I will have all of that explained in the blog post. I will post on Instagram and Facebook and all of those places once they are officially live and ready to be purchased. So keep your eye out for that tomorrow or this week whenever you have some time. The discount will run through the end of the month. If you have any questions, you can always message me on Ravelry, and I check that pretty much daily. So if not multiple times a day, as you do. So you can always message me with any questions, and I can try to help you figure out an answer. So that is everything about the design. And I think that's it for today's podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for staying through the design explanation if you did. I appreciate that. And I will see you in a couple weeks. And happy knitting till then. Bye. Do you want to come say hi on the podcast? Okay, come right here. Okay, you want to sit down? Mm-hmm. Okay, we're going to show them the sign for knitting. Knitting. Yeah. Knitting. Good job. And then we're going to do the sign for fall. Wow. Fall, because it's fall now. We are officially in fall. We had the first day of fall, huh? Okay. And then I wanted to teach you the sign for anchor. Yeah. And this is a boat. Mm-hmm. This represents the boat, and then anchor. So you're dropping your anchor off the bottom of the boat. And that is a sign I wanted to teach you today because it's going to be important in a few minutes. Daddy?